Morning,
Listen
everyone.
to
We're here for the Sunday mindset session, talking a little bit of property before we get into mindset, as we do each and every day. Anything can happen when it comes to Luke and Tony, when it comes to the mindset session. How are you this morning, Tony?
Luke, I am awesome, mate. I'm here in Brisbane. Have a look at this. It doesn't get any better than this. A beautiful, beautiful autumn day. We're coming on to the fringe of winter, but a beautiful autumn day. I've been so busy this week. I was just telling you, I was up in Noosa yesterday teaching a whole room of solicitors or lawyers all about mindset. So it was fascinating.
It is all about mindset, especially on this Sunday morning where we start to get ourselves ready for the week ahead.
We sure do.
Even if it's a case that you're not working on things today, but having a little bit of space, getting a little bit of clarity. And Tony, today we bring the topic to everyone about, are you stuck? And how do you get unstuck?
Yeah, absolutely. But before that, I want to go back to the point you made around just taking some space. We talk about you just want to sit with your thoughts. So if you come to a place like where I am, which is absolutely gorgeous, beautiful park here, people out walking, all that sort of stuff, but just sit here and just be with your thoughts. Shut your phone down and just, see what comes up for you. I think those moments are incredibly powerful.
Oh, they are. Like we always talk about, when do you come up with those great ideas? On the shower, on the toilet, in the shower, on the toilet. I'm all over the place.
That's all right. We knew what you meant, mate. So absolutely, there's ideas will come from anywhere when you allow them to happen. The problem is that we're so damn busy all the time, and we occupy ourselves with stuff, whether it be TV, social, whatever it is. We don't want to sit with our thoughts because we're too afraid of what might come up for us. But when you actually sit with your thoughts, then magical things happen. And I've shared here many a time around my extremely moving and positive experience up in the mountains with the magic spot, the magic carpet. Taking a little square of carpet and sitting in a very dense, rainforest. Just beautiful, 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 and just the thoughts that come up. So we just need to allow ourselves the space.
Allow ourselves the space is where we start with this idea today of are you stuck? Where are you at? And how do you become unstuck? And I think first of all, Tony, getting right into the topic today, straight off the bat, because that's what we're all about. And hi to Mum and a few others that are joining this morning. And when we're talking about our mindset on this Sunday morning to get us prepared, not only for the week ahead, but each and every day. So this is why we do it. It's been 102 weeks in a row, Tony, of doing the Sunday mindset session. So we're on fire with that, getting that consistency and, reaching new levels and challenging ourselves, Tony, on an ongoing basis is something that we give you, and hopefully that can influence, all the viewers that are out there as well. So getting right into it, what is going on for you is an idea of about, thinking about where you are at this moment in time. Is a slowdown needed? Is that space, like Tony said, needed for us to just gather our thoughts and see where we're at?
Well, it's self-awareness, Luke. That's effectively what you're trying to say. To sum it up, it's all about self-awareness. So, for you, maybe Sunday is a time to crank it up and get ready for the week. Maybe for you, Sunday's a time to relax and just take it easy and recharge. It doesn't matter. Wherever you're at, it's called self-awareness. Really get attuned to yourself. That's how change happens. Change happens when we become self-aware. There's a formula, I've said it here before, where the change formula is self-awareness plus action equals change. And so the first step is to become self-aware, and not just self-aware consciously, but self-awareness of what's going on for you at a subconscious level. Self-aware of, am I procrastinating? Am I acting with fear? Am I feeling unstuck, given we're going to talk about this today? Am I blaming, not accepting responsibility, so on and so forth? What's going on for you subconsciously? And that's the whole idea of self-awareness. And the next step is action. Just do one thing.
Absolutely. And I think about what's going on for each one of us. And I think about the idea of, is there someone that you can, speak to about this, whether it's a mentor or a coach, whether it's, a family member or a friend that thinks at that higher level, that has have got the runs on the board, that has had great experiences in their life, but maybe has been through struggles as well, Tony.
Oh, everyone's been through struggles. Let's be honest. No one is struggle-free. And so we've all been through struggles. And quite often we think that our struggles are the very, very worst struggles in the whole wide world. And I'll guarantee you there's always someone who's gone through something more than you. And it's not a competition, but it's about recognizing that we all go through our own stuff. And, what you've gone through, there might be some techniques or strategies that you incorporated to help you get through that. And maybe in a conversation, a coffee with someone, etc., you might be able to impart that on others. So it's about, helping people move forward, but recognizing that we all have our stuff, right? And I don't have long enough here today to go through the stuff. Hopefully it's not too windy, mate. I don't have long enough here today to go through the stuff that's going on for me. But the reality is that I have plenty of stuff going on, but I choose not to focus on and dwell on it. I choose to solve what's going on for me.
Yeah, the wind's fine, mate. So
okay, fine.
Sean Hayes says, morning, guys. Morning to Sean and everyone else that's coming on. And, yes, we're all going to have this stuff. And I guess, Tony, you brought up this particular subject today. Is it on the back of some of the experiences that you're going through with coaching clients at the moment, or what's the reason for this particular topic that you're coming through?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's with different clients. It's just seeing where they're at, and a lot of people focusing on, being stuck, and what you think about expands. And so if you think about the fact that you're stuck, if you tell yourself you're stuck, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to bring that into life, and you're not going to get out of it, and because you're fixated on being stuck. And so you'll start off with something that's this big, and you'll think about it, and you'll think about it, and you'll think about it, and before you know it, the feeling of stuckness, if that's such a word, it becomes this immovable object, because the more you think of something, the more it expands.
All right. Well, I've got to keep it down. So, I'm getting excited out here. So that's something.
Okay. There you go. Keep it down. You're waking up the neighbours, Luke. Hey, look out. There you go. You've had a 102nd episode. I don't think that's happened to us in 102 episodes, mate. So there you go. So you need to keep it down.
Maybe I should have went to the park or something like that.
Well, anyway. I'm out in the middle of the park, so I won't be keeping it down. So we got the crowds around us.
Well, I think there's more people out in Brisbane than there is in Sydney today. So
well, it's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, so it's all about when you fixate on being stuck, then that's what's going to eventuate. And so it's been coming up for me a little bit this week with some clients. It came up for me yesterday as well. I went through the behavioural theory line of choice. And so there's a whole range of people who are fixated in the wrong direction. When you think about being stuck, by definition, you're actually looking backwards. You're looking at, oh my gosh, look, I'm looking back at something that's already happened. Because if you're in a stuck position, then it's already happened. So by fixating on something that's already happened, you're not changing it, right? And so it's about how do we move ourselves forward, and that's obviously what we're going to go through in the next little while this morning.
I guess there's people out there, Tony, that talk about the idea of, I don't know where's my direction, what I'm doing. I've got no passions. I've got no ideas, and I'm not sure where I'm going with things. And they just stay in that, mouse wheel and keep going on that same journey.
Yeah, and it's about recognizing that, we put a lot of pressure on our kids. I've got an 18-year-old boy, and he's figuring out, where he's headed in the world. And I think back to when I was an 18-year-old boy. We caught up with Mum last night. It was her birthday. We had a nice celebration. We're just reminiscing on us as kids. And we put a lot of pressure on kids, for example, around getting clear on what it is that you want. And it takes 10, 20, 30 years. Some people never discover it. There's people that are our age in their 40s who still have no clue, right? I got clear on it when I was about 42. So it's a case of, it happens all the time. And it's not about trying to solve where you want to go for the next 10 or so years. Maybe it's just, well, let's try something. It's a little bit like a smorgasbord, so it's a case of, and I give this advice particularly to young people when they want to have a chat about their, where they go. I say, just try things. Try some stuff. What do you think you might like right about now? Try it. You'll figure it out. There'll be some dishes that you try and it'll taste like crap. And there'll be some other dishes that you try and you'll think, oh my gosh, that's a beautiful dish and I want more of that dish. And so if you treat it like a smorgasbord, then eventually you're going to discover that's the dish for me. And that might only be the dish for you for the next couple of years. And then you want to try a different dish and a different dish. And that's cool. And it's very different in 2021 because if you go back to yesteryear, it was all around longevity in employment. You'd stick with the same job, etc. Today, there are so many options for people coming through to do whatever their heart desires. And it's about recognizing that, if something's not quite working for you, do something a bit different. It ain't a bad thing in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. A couple of things on that. It's really interesting. Before I get into that, Kelly says, good morning, Luke and Tony. we, thinking about some of the ideas that as an 18-year-old, I came out of school and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And the first thing that sort of popped up, because I did some work experiences with it in year 10, then got to year 12 and I still didn't know what I was going to do, but I went into the travel industry, kind of like, oh, that sounds interesting and exciting, get to travel the world. How good can that be? That's great. And that was the basis of my employment, and doing a short training course and getting into employment was the focus for me. And, it was years later before I got myself into the property industry and went down to something that I'm even more passionate about than in regards to travel. I guess that was just more of an enjoyment side of thing rather than a passion of work.
But it was a good fit for the time, right? So for that time in your life, that was perfect, right? And you think about as a young person to have a job that requires you to travel the world, oh my gosh, like sign me up for that. Do you know what I mean? So that's what it was for you at the time. But then through age, through experience, through maturity, you started to then think about other things. And again, before you started in property, you would have had a bit of a thought. It's like, yeah, okay. But then for you, you started off in the property managing space, right? And now you've ended up into buyer's agency. So it's just about you trying different things. You'll recognize there's things you like. You'll recognize there's things you don't. And that's cool as long as you're trying stuff. And that's the whole idea, that if you've got this feeling of being stuck, you're not trying anything, right? And don't try and solve it all. Just put one foot in front of the other and start to do some stuff. And it doesn't matter if you try something and you hate it. Cool, because through a process of elimination, you're going to get a bit closer to the thing that you do really love doing.
I'll tell you from the parents that are out there watching today, and if they're in a situation where they're putting pressure on their kids to actually do something or find their passion or actually going to do something that they want their kids to do rather than with the kids. Obviously, even, for your son, Tony, coming out of school, unaware about what he wants to do, but then he's testing and trying different things, which is a great thing to see. But there are some parents out there that are doing, maybe putting that pressure, go to university, do this, do that, where the kid doesn't really want to do that.
Enormous pressure. And for those parents, a lot of them, I would challenge them, have they got clear on what it is that they want? So it's quite hypocritical for a lot of those parents. And so it's a case of letting the child figure it out. And it's not easy. It's not easy as a parent to take your hand off the reins and to let your child, do some stuff. And it might go against every, fibre of your being. But they have to figure it out. We all have to, at some stage, figure it out. And again, we were talking about this last night with Mum. It helps build resourcefulness. If you mollycoddle and mother your kids or father your kids, and you're not helping build resilience and resourcefulness for your child, because that's how the world works. You and I are a massive fan of Gary Vee. I'm wearing his shoes today down here with Pride in Bulimba. But he talks about the whole 8th place trophies, and all these types of things, and the entitlement. And it's like a case of, well, that never existed for us. It's like, you've got to get out there and make it happen. You've got to be resourceful, figure it out. And they're wonderful, wonderful skills, life skills. Doesn't matter what career you choose, but they're wonderful life skills to be resourceful, to constantly look forward. What else can I do? Where else can I go? Who else can I turn to? And these are a lot of the conversations that I have with plenty of adults, whether it be business owners, people in property, because they're not being resourceful themselves.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear from everyone if you're stuck at the moment or ways that you've become unstuck in the past. Sean says, good morning, guys. And Sean Hayes says, had an awesome start to the day. Week 6, and I'm walking the dog, watching the sunrise at Coogee Beach with the pod of 20 plus dolphins playing in the bay. Happy
That's
days.
awesome. That's awesome.
And nature at its best. So that space, getting clarity, having some time out, all these things that Sean's adapting for himself. And it's great to see that. Week 6, walking the dog.
I love it. Good on you, Sean. Keep it up. It's absolutely awesome. And again, just being outside, like, honestly, it's amazing to think. So, where I am, and Sean, I imagine the weather's very similar to you, but here we are on the verge of winter. Oh my gosh, like there's, maybe 2 clouds in the sky. It's just a phenomenal day.
I guess in when you are stuck, Tony, as well, thinking about, it might be a moment in time. It might be what is needed for you to maybe just sit back and just gather yourself and have that space and find out what really is important for you?
Well, what I always say to people if they're unstuck is, firstly, I want to talk about the stuckness component. So that is the dwelling on something, right? So I really want to challenge people on, what are you dwelling on? What's that giving you? Like, why are you dwelling? What's the benefit that you're deriving from dwelling on something? Because the reality is that something's happened. We can't change it, but yet human nature is that we want to fixate on this thing. We want to dwell on this thing all the time, and a good example is they use an example of the animal kingdom, and a gazelle in the safari, getting chased, or a deer getting chased by a lion, and it's obviously, it escapes the lion. It's quite anxious, quite fearful. But once that moment finishes, once it's able to free itself from the lion, it goes back to just chewing grass and getting on with its day. Whereas for us as humans, what happens is we have a moment, we have a fearful moment, an anxious moment, whatever it might be, we fixate on it. We fixate on it. We fixate on it. We sit there and dwell on that. I can't believe I made that mistake. I can't believe I did that thing wrong. I can't believe I lost that money. And we dwell and dwell and dwell. And we turn this, something that should be relatively small into something that's massive. So the whole idea, first and foremost for me, is to challenge yourself on what benefit you're actually getting from fixating on being stuck or dwelling in the past. And the reality is that there's not a great deal of benefit, but there might be something that's coming up for you, and that's why you're doing it. So really challenge yourself on that first and foremost.
It's an interesting one for us to really tackle for ourselves and seeing where we are at different times and see if there is something that we are stuck on for ourselves. Tony, looking about how do we get, I was actually thinking about it while you were talking about that. Sorry, just to go back to that for a moment.
Right.
We are going to be stuck in terms of maybe mentally, and you talked about the dwelling space, but also sort of physically, or whether we're at a job and that does pay the bills, and we feel like we're sort of stuck in that ongoing 9-to-5 job.
The rut, the rat race. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And so that can happen, and that's a case of, it's not easy to do that. And you and I have both done it, where we've had to make the decision to leave our employment. And whilst as tempting as it is to, the moment you have that thought, to hand in the resignation letter, you've got bills to pay. You've got, mortgages or rents and food and private school fees and so on and so forth. So it's not that easy to make that decision instantaneously to leave, but it certainly is that easy to make the decision that I'm now going to figure out what's my exit strategy. And so for me, between the time that I had that initial thought and when I left, it was a 3-year runway. Right, so I had to figure out how I was going to replace what was a very good income for me, and it took me 3 years to be able to put myself in that position. So, but again, it's about going, well, that's what's really important to me. I'm feeling unfulfilled in my job, and I've sat here a few times before and talked about this, and I knew that I wasn't meant to be where I was, and I knew that I needed something different, and it took me 3 years to get there. Now, a lot of people may not stick it out for 3 years, right? And hey, if you're in a financial position you can leave earlier, that's awesome. But for me, that's the length of time it took. But to leave was so important for me because I needed to find fulfillment, and I wasn't finding it where I was.
Yeah, like Sean says, forward focusedness required to get unstuck. That's a big one. And I guess if you are in that 9-to-5 is what we're saying here, maybe some sort of side hustle or path that you're generating for yourself can get you out of that 9-to-5 job, can get you out of that stuckness that you're in, both mentally and physically. And that's a big one. Tony?
Well, let me give you a real life example, right? So just from a side hustle point of view. So my son, he had a challenging year last year and really lacked purpose. He's gone and created a side hustle for him. He's finished school now. He created a side hustle for himself. He sells shoes online. In the last 9 months, he sold almost 20 grand worth of shoes. Now, that's getting out there and just making stuff happen. Now, that's what he's gone and done. So many of us are going and create my side hustle was property and then coaching. So all of us have, if you want to do it, then it does require commitment, dedication, discipline, focus, etc. But when your goal is so big, it's about commitment to your goal versus interest to your goal. Ultimately, that's really the next piece in becoming unstuck. And as Sean said, it's about coming up with something forward-facing. Have something that's in front of you that's worthwhile pursuing. And that something might only be a day, it might be a week, it might be a month, it might be a year, it might be 5 years. Wherever you're at, it doesn't matter. As long as it's in front of you in some way, shape or form, that I've got some purpose to work towards.